Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevated Caltech Center for Technology and Management Education's wonderful podcast on program management and all that entails. Today, we have Christy Conner, a very special guest who has not only taken courses from Caltech CTME, but has really flourished in her amazing career. And I'm so excited to talk to her about that today. And Christy, we're so lucky to have you on today.
It's good to be here on campus.
Yes.
This campus.
Yes, you do, apparently. Multiple courses taken on this campus that have been, as you said to me, very helpful in your career. And we're so excited to hear about the career and all the things that happened from not only starting the various certificates, but everything that's happened since, including a really great gift you gave me, this wonderful book that we'll be talking about. So I'm excited to dig in. So Christy, first, please tell us a bit about what makes Christy, and we'll go from there.
I mean, for me, it's always the people, anything that brings people together, creates community, and spreads joy. I mean, those are the things that I love.
Absolutely. So tell me, first of all, how did you get connected with Caltech CTME? Tell me about that origin story.
It's so fun. First off, I'm so honored to be here with you. I can't believe that, 20 something years later, if I would have known in my class that I would be here with you, I would just have stars in my eyes. So I still have stars in my eyes. So thank you for having me on here.
Absolutely.
I did take the project management certification class or the course. It was kind of 10 weekends when I was early in my career. I also did the negotiation course, which taught me a great deal about win-win situations.
Wonderful. And there we go. Now, let's first dig into the project management course and how that led you into the various areas, how that informed the various moves you made throughout your amazing career. So first, I want to hear about how your career started, and there's some aviation up in there, and which is fantastic and fascinating. Tell me more about that.
So I started off, my first degree was in aviation and business, and then I realized flying was my means to an end, that I really love people and culture. And so after learning how to fly, I moved over and did international relations at USC. And from there, I was a teaching assistant, and one of the professors I was a teaching assistant for had a technology company. And so I've been in and out of technology companies, and at one of them, one of my bosses told me, I was running a customer advocacy program, kind of high revenue customers, very stressful. And one of his things was, you should get a project management certification. It'll be helpful across your life. And he was so right, because everything in our lives is a project, actually. Everything we do, from running our home to running our career, everything is a project. So those skills have served me throughout my life. And so I had somebody important in my life that was getting their PhD at Caltech. I loved being around the big brains around here. So it was a great resource to me. I learned a great deal. It helped me with preparing for my certification for PMP. But it also gave me kind of the real world how to make things work, because passing a course or passing a certification does not mean that you can actually do the thing. And it really helped me to be able to understand the different aspects and complexity around making things work and how does a project work.
Fantastic. And later on, I want to talk about how that led you to using your networking or developing networking as a project, and how that led to the book. But we won't get to start there yet. Before we do, I want to talk about the 5 continents that you have led projects, really big projects on, and a really great story that you shared with me earlier. Tell us a little bit about how that role started, and what you did in that role, and that great story.
Okay. I have been really lucky throughout my career to live and work globally. It's been a huge learning in my life to learn how to work with other people and cultures. And I was an instructor of change management on 5 continents. And before that, even, I was working, I was in nonprofit for about 8 years, working globally, and I was tasked with turning around and implementing a customer support for a microfinance solution for microfinance institutions globally. And so I had come up with a plan. I sorted out the contracts, came up with a plan, and I went into each region and I planned kind of like the regional visits to work on the turnaround project and implement the customer support. But every time I got there, I would start saying, we have a solution. This is where we're going to. We're going to fix all these things. And what I realized is that I couldn't move forward until the people who had this experience, so they implemented the solution and nothing happened for a year. They had no hand-holding, no support throughout that year. So they really felt like that solution was a black box. And they had spent a year of their time and effort and tears and sweat and time away from their family trying to utilize this tool that they couldn't utilize well. And it caused a tremendous amount of pain. And so until I could listen to that pain and hear from them, I was not able to move forward. I would start the process saying, okay, we're going to put this in place. And until I let them get out their anger, their frustration, their pain, also for me, on behalf of the organization, acknowledging that and saying, I'm sorry that you've gone through this and the impact that that's had on your family. Only until then were we able to move forward.
Wow. There is so much change happening in all of our companies and all of our institutions because of various changes that we're experiencing in the world. And so for those of us, which is almost everybody at the moment, that are in change management, in the throes of change management due to required upskilling and not only just required upskilling, but all of the constraints, all of the obstacles that come with that when considering different generations and different tech use. What advice would you have for managers and leaders who are in that type of situation, who are trying to implement change, but want to do it in a way that is understanding the human element?
That kind of takes me, I was based in Haiti after the earthquake, and one of the projects I did there was a vehicle tracking, for satellite vehicle tracking on a security use case. So we were putting it into our fleet there, about 65 vehicles, and we had everything from like PhD expats at the senior executive level down to drivers that had maybe a second grade education, and multiple languages, English, French, Creole. And so what I think is very specific in those types of situations is, one, to acknowledge the differences between either the generations or the people that might be affected by the change, and then figuring out what needs to happen for each of those groups to get them on board to make that change. And then the training around that. The training has to be absorbable by somebody with maybe a second grade education and a different language than an executive. So all of those levels that you're teaching at or planning for, they have to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the hesitancy of adoption in whatever change that's happening, how do you think that, well, I guess I'll say, what is the missing element that leaders aren't thinking of when they are about to enact this type of change?
Yeah. That's a very important question, because I see that a lot when you're trying to move a boulder or you're trying to send a team that's going to climb a mountain. You cannot do organizational change until every single person in your organization has an understanding, has an acceptance, has an inspiration around why we're going to change. And so organizational change only happens when every single individual in that change is able to move forward. We talked a little bit before, and I sometimes align, say you have a project or a deliverable that you need to do, and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and one of the things I found fascinating was, for maybe the 20 of us that were climbing, there were double the amount of support staff to make that happen. And when people go through a project or a change, they think, oh, I'm just going to tell them what to do. But imagine if you were telling your team, move that mountain or climb that mountain. You would have to provide them a tremendous amount of support to do that. And so when you try and do a project without all the resources kind of underneath supporting, you're not going to be successful.
Right. And one of my favorite things that you shared when enacting that large global change that you did was you sat and you listened to the complaints and you allowed people to vent. Do you think, obviously that is not something that leaders may feel they have time to, but this is something they should make time for, no?
I mean, you can put it off, but that means you're also putting your project off until you actually listen, right? Listening is the key to everything, right? It's how we're actually able to connect with someone. So until you can take the time and listen, you're going to pay for it later. Regardless, if you wait and do it if you wait or if you do it at the beginning, it's better you do it at the beginning, clear the air, clear a playing field so people can come onto the field and be a part of the team with you.
Wow. Thank you for that. Now, you spoke of inspiration, and you've had a number of various pivots and changes in your career. Tell us about that and how you just soared through each of them. Tell us about what those changes look like, what the different industries were, and a bit of advice that you would give to those of us who are in that same type of situation.
It's always a challenging one. I always say, because my background is so diverse, I kind of wish I was an accountant so people would know exactly where to put me. But, it would take away from who I am. And who I am is somebody who likes to create new things and learn and be a part of change. So I think if you're going into a pivot, I've done like 6 sectors, 14 or 15 companies, and those shifts have sometimes required stepping back. I talk about starting over a lot. And I've left a number of different careers that I have been successful in because I have passions and I want to learn and experience things. And so I would say, as you're facing your pivot, think about your transferable skills. Maybe you can volunteer in the area or take a step back and begin again. And you're not beginning from scratch, right? You're building on everything you've already done and accumulated and learned. So even if you make a change, it's okay. And one of I don't know who said this quote, but it's like, never be afraid to be the least experienced person in the room. Because the more that you go, I might not have experience in this thing, but I have a ton of experience with people and learning globally. And so being confident in what you do bring to the table.
Thank you. One of the great stories you shared with me was about the project, or rather the negotiation course you took with CTME. There was a bit of a tie-in to your childhood and your sibling. Tell us about that.
So I have a brother who's 16 months older than me, and he's a foot taller and, 100 pounds heavier growing up, And so for me, when I was a child coming out of the gate, if we were competing, I would come out like going as fast as I can, all fists flying, whatever it took to win the game, like sweep the table, right? There's winners and there's losers, and I'm going to win all of it, whatever it was. And I came to the negotiation course at Caltech. And so, of course, like I came out of the gate. I was pretty early in my career when I did this course. And I came out of the gate like sweeping the table from everyone else. And they're like, no, this is not how it works. Like, it has to be win-win. And I was like, oh, win-win. That was a really big thing for me to kind of shift my head. But it was so important for me to realize we are all in this together, right? We need to support each other. All ships, rising tide lifts all ships, and compromise. But it was a big shock because I was like, oh, I just won this game. And they're like, no, you didn't win this game. You actually just lost this game because you didn't make it win-win.
I love that. I love that. Mental notes, So you had mentioned that taking the Caltech CTME, Center for Technology and Management Education, project management course helped with even writing the book and not writing the book, but figuring out your networking approach. Tell us more about that and how that led to this wonderful book that I can't wait to read.
So I'm a shy introvert, and I lived and worked globally. So I was back in US. I was trying to make roots, work here, and I went through 2 layoffs, which were a huge swipe to my ego. And I needed to build a new network from scratch. And I needed to learn how to network as an executive, how to meet people. And as a shy introvert, that was very difficult for me. But I met a lot of great mentors and super connectors who kind of helped me learn what the process was. And being a project manager, first, I was like, okay, there has to be a process for this. And so kind of aligning it in a way, in a model that made sense to me, kind of that listen to connect model was so important. And it's the project manager in me. Like, how can we do this? How can it be like some templates in here? Yeah. What is the process I need to walk through to be able to effectively like listen and connect with somebody effectively?
Now, in one of the talks you gave, you talked about connecting not just to check off that networking box, but rather for a purpose. Can you tell us more about what that purpose is and how that benefits not just you, but others around you?
One of the super connectors in the book, there's about 10 of them, was really about listening to people and like making them be seen and heard. And that's what actually, there's a few super connectors in the book that talk about this. And we all want to be seen and heard and appreciated. And, one of them talked about, just listening could be the cure for society's ills, and how important that is and how it can change the world. Just listening and acknowledging and validating and hearing who a person is. So networking is kind of that activity where you meet somebody, and then connecting is really when you listen, you communicate, and you're vulnerable with them.
Do you, I didn't ask you for a story to queue up, but what are some stories that you have? I'm sure you have so many, and I'm sure there's so many in the book as well. What are a couple that you would like to highlight that that would encourage those of us who are out there connecting, moving into new spaces? Do you have some top of mind that you can share?
Sure. I think kind of my catalyst around getting around the shy introvert, I was in Toastmasters, and they have this thing called table topics. And I got up for a table topic, and they asked me the question, you're supposed to speak for 3 minutes, like impromptu. I couldn't think of anything to say. And I stood there for 3 minutes, like horrified. So what I learned about myself, and this is something I actually used to do for the Caltech Entrepreneurs Forum, another great group here at Caltech, was that I would create a list of questions, and I would practice them in my vehicle outside, like saying it out loud, because I knew once I got in the room and I met people, my brain would just freeze. And so I had to practice them verbally. So people walk past and I'm sitting in my vehicle talking to myself, but it really helped me. So having a canned set of questions and answers when I was going into a networking event really helped me have a little more confidence that when I got in that situation, I wasn't going to freeze like when I was on the Toastmasters moment.
Now, you gave a shout out to our Caltech Entrepreneur Circle. Can you tell those of us who are curious about it, can you tell us a little bit more about what they are, who they are when they meet?
Yes. So the Caltech Entrepreneurial Forum, they have 2 seasons during the year, one in the fall and one in the spring. They're held locally. They have amazing speakers and great networking. I've been a part of it for more than 20 years. And it's a great resource to the community. Brilliant speakers, brilliant people who facilitate and formulate. They have a wonderful board. So definitely check it out if you're in the Pasadena area.
Wow. If one of my wonderful staff could queue up a link to information on that and put it in the chat, that would be fantastic. Now, there's other communities in Pasadena that you're heavily involved in, and you led it for some time, and now you are sponsoring the caffeination of these people. I want to know more about, and we have a lot of guests today from this wonderful group. Tell us about this group and how you learned about it, and how and what it's doing, what its mission is.
Yeah. So actually Innovate Pasadena here in Pasadena was one of my first networking events that I went to that somebody connected me to as I was starting to build my network here. And I was on their board the past few years, and I'm an ex board member. But also, so Innovate Pasadena's Friday Coffee Meetup. It's a large entrepreneurial innovation tech meetup here in Pasadena. We also actually have a Pasadena Tech Happy Hour through Innovate Pasadena, which is also great. And we have speakers every month, really meant to foster connection within the community. We are specifically a very friendly group. So if you are new to networking, we are very kind and friendly, and really meant to build those connections in innovation across the Southern California community. So yes, I now we have a great group of volunteers. It's volunteer led, and now I sponsor the coffee. So come have some caffeination. It's a great community.
That's fantastic. Now I want to focus more on the book. The subtitle to the book is How to Build, it's the Confident Connector. The subtitle is How to Build Your Must-Have Professional Network in an Era of Job Insecurity. Now you shared with us that you've gone through that. So you're coming from a place where you know what it feels like, and although I think I've paged through it, I think everyone should read it fully. What are some tips that they could look forward to in the book, and tell us a bit more about how that book writing journey? I mean, there's a bunch of questions here, so tell us some tips, the book writing journey, and tackling that as a project.
Yeah. I think I'll start with the book writing journey. After and during the layoffs, kind of learning how to network with people. I was doing a lot of coaching for people in transition, and I was creating the content. And so the content, a lot of it was there, and then pulling it into, okay, it would just be easier if I just give you a book of, here's how you do it. And so, I've created other content as well, workbook and things to kind of help people through that process. And that really came from wanting to help make it easier, because when you are in a job search, there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of emotions, and trying to learn how to network in that process is so important. A job is temporary, a network is forever. That's something that I learned, and how important it is in your career. So there are actually 3 pillars in your career. You have your career strategy, which is kind of climbing that ladder. You have your career development, the things that you're learning, the amazing things that the CTME helps you with your skills. And then the third pillar is your network development. And so creating that network, that's what opens new doors in the future. That's where kind of those new thoughts and innovation can happen, and keeps you current with what's happening in the broader spectrum. And it's also pay it forward, right? You're helping others and, connecting others during that process. So that was the process for writing the book. And, there's 10 to 12 super connectors in there, and learning from them throughout that. So I didn't actually know anybody that's in the book in the beginning of my journey. So it was amazing to watch and see this giant network expand through my process of creating the book. So that's kind of the journey there. And then tips and tricks on the inside. There are many of them. I think for me, when I go into an event, sometimes as a shy introvert, right, sometimes I'm feeling very comfortable and confident, and sometimes I'm feeling less so. And so, if you are new to connecting, right, we now have more virtual connecting. That's an easy, soft land if you want to start there. When you go into an event itself, practicing your canned questions and answers, understanding kind of your body cues and what you need, taking a breath before you go into an event, just sometimes taking a minute. Okay, I'm going to be okay. You can set a goal. I normally try and bribe myself with chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream.
Oh, that's a good one.
As after, once you do it, maybe you're saying, I'm going to meet 5 people or I'm going to have these discussions. Having those discussions, if you need a break, sometimes I need a break. So I always say I like to hide in the bathroom sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you just need a minute or step outside. Take a deep breath. Look at the sky. Okay, I'm ready to go back inside now. So those are some things that help me. There are many tips in there, and there's a process that you have to walk through to kind of figure out who you are and what you can give other people. But those are some tips for when you're in the moment.
Yeah, although I am the introvert side of me that likes to be alone and likes to withdraw and isolate herself. I love that part, but like you said, it's a little. It could be disorienting going to events, especially when they're large conferences. And because being at large conferences it's such a great place to network. Small, intimate places are great too, but the large conferences are really tough. What ideas or strategies do you have when you go to those large conferences? Is it better to go wide, to go deep? What do you think?
I think it's dependent on what you're looking for. Like if you're just generally looking to grow your network with professionals in your community, you can go wide. One of the questions I like to ask is, what are you interested in or passionate about? That way it can be a broader question as to like, oh, what do you do? Right? It can, I'm in transition right now, looking for my next thing. And it can be sometimes a little abrasive. So what are you interested or passionate about, like on a broader level? And then if you are looking for something specific, doing your research beforehand and really targeting those individuals, learning about them, finding about, what you can about them in advance to kind of facilitate that communication and connection. And then be brave, going up and saying hi to people is tough. And so, get your bravery on. Also know that everybody feels awkward doing this. Like I've had senior people be like, it feels so awkward. Everybody feels awkward when they're doing this. So just know that as you're going into that process.
Absolutely. We all do, no matter what we say or think or think we are, we all have that butterflies in the beginning. So what I want to do is I want to take questions from the audience. I'm going to start to queue those up. And so please start to, I see some questions coming in. Thank you so much. Please start to populate those in there. And while we wait for a few more of those to pop up, I'll share a couple of little tips that I have when I go to conferences. Because I get nervous the night before, what I do is I get to the conference extra early and I take little conference tchotchke things that I got from other conferences that I don't mind losing. And I'll put those, or getting stolen, I'll put those on the best seats in the front. And, usually there's the reserved section, but right behind the reserved, I'll put a bunch of those down, probably 5 or 7. And then I'll go around looking for people that look the way I feel. So when they have that shocked, oh my gosh, I'm here alone. Who am I going to talk to? I'm like, oh, you're me. Come, And so I'll go up to them and say, hey, what's your name? Blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Someone's talking to me, So they already have that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
I feel the sense of belonging too. And then I'll tell them after a nice little chat, would you like to sit with me? Yes, of course. They come sit and I say, you know what? Go grab 2 other people because I have more seats here. And those people have a reach that I wouldn't have had. And so they'll invite others that I wouldn't have naturally gone up to because maybe of my fears and insecurities. And then they grab those people and then we have a whole little crew. And by the end of the conference, you have a tribe that is collecting other people to add to the tribe and you become great friends. And so that's one of the things that I love to do.
I love this. This is an amazing tip. And it's one thing in the book is somebody suggested like act like a host. Absolutely. And that's exactly what you're doing. That way deflects it off of you,
Yes.
and you're just hosting other people, making them feel comfortable. And what an amazing idea. I love that idea. Well done.
I hope you employ it because it's so nice. It's so nice. In fact, when I met Christy for coffee afterward, she was like, "Welcome," just like a host, and I felt so great. I sat down. Well, thank you. Okay, so we have some wonderful questions here. Let me see this one here. I'll read it out. Chand says, I just got a copy of Christy's book, and I'm curious to get her thoughts on the types of roles super connectors excel in.
Well, I think actually super connectors excel in every kind of role because you need to be a connector in every role to actually be successful. There are some, specific roles, kind of chief of staff, relationship building, but I think project managers, program managers, but I think in any role, you have to be able to connect and communicate with people. So I feel like it's a universal skill that we all need, no matter what career that we're undertaking.
Mm-hmm. And also partnerships roles, right? Mm-hmm. Because what are you doing but creating partnerships? That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Chan, for that question. We have another question here from LM Clinton. What tips, Christy, do you have to following up and maintaining connections after making the initial connection?
So for certain connections, I'd love to have a one-on-one with them. And for the after connection, I walk through kind of the process in the book, but making sure that you follow up. Don't go to a networking event and meet people and then like shove those cards in a drawer or never follow up with them. What's important is you reach out. You can mention where you met one another. You can send them the information that you said you might send them, right? We want to be of service to people. And when we're out connecting, you're really there to see how you can help them. So whatever it is that you've mentioned to them, making sure that you send that after. And then having periodic check-ins. Some people use their calendar, if it's a relationship that they really want to facilitate and make it stronger, than having like a regular cadence with that person to set up that connection. But don't waste your time by going to an event and then not following up with any of the people that you just met, because that is literally a waste of your time. It's probably worse than even meeting the people. Like it's almost better not to meet them than to like just kind of put them in a closet somewhere.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One of the things I've always appreciated about real estate agents is that they had their picture on the card, And so when I created my picture for the first nonprofit that I founded, Employ California, I put my picture on it because I thought I want people to remember me. And I put a picture that looks like me, flaws and all. And it was really helpful because then when I called, they would look at my picture and be like, oh, I remember you, whereas just the name, you're like, oh my gosh, who was this, So tell us about your CRM tech stack. Are you Google Sheets? Are you Notion? Do you have a HubSpot? How do you keep all these connections organized, Miss Project Manager? Tell us the tips.
So I mostly actually use LinkedIn as my CRM. Mm-hmm. Oh, and first, let me tell you, you are flawless. There are no flaws.
Oh my goodness.
Lighting. I make a point of like when I respond to the person, I've kind of summarized the conversation that I had with them. Mm-hmm. And the point on the photo, please put your photo up if you don't have a photo, help a girl out. And I also now sometimes also just use like a regular spreadsheet, sometimes for extra things that I might not be able to kind of house in that conversation. What about you? What do you use? How do you manage your things?
I started with Google Sheets because they have a CRM template, and I found that really helpful. First, I was just templating. I was just creating it myself, and then I discovered the CRM template, and then I moved to Notion, and that was fun. But now that OpenAI has the MCP connector to ChatGPT and HubSpot, now I'm moving on to HubSpot. So I get to learn all about HubSpot and that CRM. And so to be continued on whether that's successful, but I'll let you know. Yeah. Now, what are some questions that what do you wish people would ask you about?
Interesting. I mean, honestly, I just when I'm having a conversation with someone, I don't even know if it's about the question. It's just having like a genuine interest in who I am as a human and that I bring value. And I think that's for anyone, right? We just want to, it's that be seen, be heard, feel like that you're valuable. So I don't think it's about any question or conversation. I think it's more like, how are we listening? How are we interacting with one another? Are we being kind and generous and gracious?
The Dr. Maya Angelou quote of how someone makes you feel.
Oh, do you know it?
I'm not going to quote it verbatim,
Okay.
but Dr. Maya Angelou shared that no one will remember what you said, or
yes.
you remember that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think I heard that you quote this one in a talk you gave, but they won't remember any of the things, not especially not what you're wearing, which I need to remember anytime I'm preparing for these events, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And what you told me is, I just want to feel listened to. I just want to feel welcomed, which is why that question of what do you do for someone as curious and wide-ranged as you, it's very difficult to answer because it's like, well, which one do I choose? You know, besides what are you interested in? There are some other questions that you shared that one could ask to introduce themselves and to be curious. What are some other questions that one can ask besides that one, that great one?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it can be, like things that have impacted you and your path. Tell me about something you've appreciated learning. Tell me about what are your gifts? What do you let's see, what are some other ones?
I love that one.
Where do you feel like, what has impacted you, but where have you made an impact in the world? What are you proud of? What do you, I mean, it can be basic ones like what do you love to do as your hobbies, right? Like things like that. I mean, it can be simple. It can just has to be something that you're genuinely interested in about them.
That's the key, isn't it?
That's the key. Listening to you talk this morning about AI and your passion around that. I mean, you can just listen and the next question will come, right? Not figuring out like, what is that question I need to ask next? It's almost like just listening to the conversation and letting that, as you're listening, that will bring you the next question that you need to ask to keep going.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the intro and then listening to find what the next question is.
That's great. Those are some great tips. Stacy shared with us the quote here. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Dr. Maya Angelou, how fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love that. There was the question of, I love how all of your questions are focused on that that deep connection, getting that deep connection with the other person. We have some more questions lined up, so we're going to pull these up. Notice that Stacy chose to, thank you so much, Stacy. She already shared the LinkedIn, Christy Conner. And one thing, please do introduce yourself in a message to Christy and let her know that you were here in the podcast when you reach out, because I know she'd love to see that. And then we have her on X, formerly Twitter, Confident Connector. I love that. Let's see if there's more questions here. We'll wait for some more to queue up. Christy, how else can people connect with you besides these two and at the events? Do you always go to the events? Will we be able to see you there? Tell us more about connecting with you in Pasadena and wherever else.
Yeah, my primary is the LinkedIn. I don't do much on X anymore, but the LinkedIn is definitely the way to go. And then, yes, I am at Friday Coffees once a month. It's amazing. Just fills my cup to be there and just hear, even if it's not my field, I get to learn about something that I always get something. And then actually Innovate Pasadena, they have their Connect Week coming up in October. So that's a great one too, where you can come out and that'll be across the whole city. So I do try and go to different city events. The Economic Development Council just did Dine Out Pasadena, and they did a great job at that with Echo Factory. So I do try and stay connected in the community and the Caltech Entrepreneurs Forum as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christy. I don't see any more questions here. I have more questions. I can talk to you for hours. And so I wish the elevator was a bit longer. Thank you so much, Christy, for sharing your knowledge with us. Anything that I've missed that I wanted to talk about that we've discussed? Is there something more, anything I'm missing here? Share with me. Or do we cover all of the boxes?
Great job. I mean, you were an amazing facilitator. Thank you for making this such a fun discussion.
Thank you for dealing with our tech issues today. But
There's
actually,
always tech issues.
but look, this is what we wanted to begin with. Yeah. We wanted this.
Tech issues are normal and they happen, right? But we made it work because that's what we do.
That's what we do. That's what we do. And Christy, I'm so excited to hear about to read the Confident Connector. And also, we will be seeing more of Christy to be announced later. So stay tuned for that coming up in the near future. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and joining this wonderful guest on Elevated. And we're excited to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.